Hey, I'm Booger Boy, and I'm learning pixel art. This weekend, I was looking for an art challenge when I found this Nokia 3310 gem. The concept was to make a game that could be played on the actual phone, meaning that you're limited by what the hardware can actually do. Now, I'm not a programmer, but I still thought it would be really fun to make a game mockup. My idea was to make a microbiology-themed Tamagotchi clone called Petri-Pals. The original Tamagotchi had a resolution of 32 by 16 pixels, but the screen of this Nokia phone was 84 by 48, so there's a little bit more room to work with. And since the screen size is so small, maybe I can say that this is a microbiology game. An interesting thing about the original Tamagotchi was that the icons were separate from the actual screen, but I didn't want to just hand wave the icons away in my version, so I decided to use the top third of the screen to represent them. And this still left me with 32 pixels in height, which is more than enough to convey a nice little pathogen pet. Speaking of the pets, I had this idea to create 3 to choose from, kind of Pokemon style, since I've been playing a lot of Pokemon Emerald recently. I started the first one by just making a few blobs, so the name Blobbert stuck, and I also gave him a contagious, almost infectious smile. Then I tried to make a second bacteria where the idea was to have them be a cluster of these little rods, with one being the face, but it didn't pan out, so I scrapped it. Instead, I went with this amoeba-looking germ, who I named Amoebu. She's the neutral but still cute germ of the trio. Finally, to round out the group, I wanted a pal who would pose a bit of a challenge for the player. The reference I was using had this menacing little virus in the bottom right, which totally fit the bill. I liked the idea of having these spiky chimney things all over, so I decided to name him Spike. Once the pathogens were cultivated, I had to think outside the petri dish to come up with some ways to interact with them. I designed 5 simple icons, but I really struggled because I wanted to flesh this out as if it were an actual game. But I got myself back on track, and here's what I came up with. There's medicine to boost immunity, shock for when they're being mischievous microbes, sugar in case they need a sweet treat, info so you can track all their stats, and mutate, which lets your pal evolve beyond its wildest genes. Now that all the separate pieces are complete, it's time to bring everything together. The hardest part of this challenge was definitely being limited to a 1-bit color palette. I think that the most important thing is to make sure that you have strong silhouettes and just understand that you're going to have to make compromises with what you want to portray, or else you run the risk of your art looking too noisy. Alright, that about wraps it up for this weekend challenge. Let me know in the comments if you could design a Petri-Pal, what would it look like? Thanks for watching.